Welcome back to the DJ Sessions, where we feature the best DJs and producers from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now we're sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in, I'm going to assume all the way in from somewhere in Southern California, guys. Am I correct on that?
From Los Angeles.
From Los Angeles, we got none other than X and Ivy from Party Shirt. How you doing this afternoon, guys?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Darren.
Thanks.
I'm loving the rawness of this because I got kind of a green screen background on me, and I'm in my studio. But Hugh, is that your actual studio where you do all your production?
That's a green screen too. We actually live in a $10 million mansion.
Yeah.
We got a
wait. You can get soda out of your green screen. How do I get that green screen?
That's how it works.
I know a guy. I can
Once you hit that 20 million mark on TikTok, then they give you the real green screen.
They do exactly. TikTok hand delivers it to you with a bunch of sodas.
Or wait, is the soda actually green screen, and you have somebody in the background adding that in CGI in the
vending machine? You know, it goes both ways.
I love it, guys. I love it. Well, congratulations on your success so far on TikTok. You're blowing up there. I mean, I want to dive right into everything. Becoming viral. I mean, what's that like in itself? I mean, the term has been used for many years in social media, but you guys met back in your dorm room in 2016 while going to USC. And did it just click right there and you knew right off the bat, we're going to start doing some awesome stuff? Or was there a progression and then all of a sudden overnight it went click and jumped up?
Sort of, it is like a mix of both because, you know, immediately once we met, we decided, hey, let's do Party Shirt. But I mean, I think then, you know, we sort of knew what Party Shirt, like we had like grand visions of like, we're going to headline Coachella. Right. But then also I was like, all right, let's just start and maybe play a few parties around USC. So, you know, I think at the start, like the effort didn't match where the vision was. It was more like a fun side project. Like Ivy was still at music production school and he lived in OC and I was at USC and I was working on like a business. So I think like we wanted to pursue it full time, but as I'm sure a lot of listeners know, you know, when you have a hobby, sometimes you still need, you know, sort of your daytime stuff to support it. And so it's hard to become like 100% in when you know, got all this other stuff going on. So that was 2016 and we, you know, started, you know, playing together, started releasing music. And then I think, you know, around, I think end of 2019, we had this show in Chicago that a friend booked us for. Nothing big, but just sort of traveling interstate to sort of go to a show was just so much fun. So I think when we got back, you know, end of 2018, started 2019, we're like, let's go all in and make this sort of, you know, what we do like full time. And that's when we were both graduating and sort of figuring out, you know, what would be our sort of what's next. So it's sort of the timing just worked out.
You mentioned graduating. What were you both going to school for?
Well, he was obviously at USC. He was doing business, but I was down in OC and I was just doing the music production courses at my local community college, which was a great music school, actually. So it just worked out perfect.
Did you grow up in OC?
Yeah.
What part?
Like Dana Point, San Juan Capistrano area.
Okay. I lived in Newport Beach for a stint as a youth back in the day. I went to Newport Harbor High School.
Skip away, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Love that area. As a kid, being down there for a hot minute, definitely always loved Laguna. You know, that was like where it's just so beautiful in the hill, like coming in there.
The best beaches in the world are there.
Yeah,
you know?
It's just awesome. And I want to give homage. My brothers grew up in Redondo Beach. And they brought the essence of surfing and BMX biking and skateboarding kind of up here to Washington when they moved up here. And I just want to give homage to your independent truck company shirt you're wearing. That's the original trucks.
It's typical, you know, OC surfer skater kid, you know.
Exactly. It goes with vans. It goes with independent trucks. It goes with Steve Caballero, Power the skateboards. You know, all that stuff that got ingrained in my head as a kid. So I just want to, you know, give that little tidbit that I know what independent trucks are. I also know what Harley Davidsons are too. But I will never get a motorcycle. I will kill myself, literally. And when I mean kill myself, I will push that thing to 200 miles an hour if it goes.
I love Harley Davidsons and they look cool, but I mean, if you get in an accident on a motorcycle,
it's like cars are already a death trap, let alone something you're not even buckled into and the walls are open.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring up cars and it's the safety of cars. I own another company called Alternative Media, but maybe you've seen something on our website about it. I created a big glass box truck and made it a mobile television studio. And now we actually drive around town with a concert grade sound system on it with DJs playing out of the back, streaming live.
Live. Wait, what's it called? That's so sick.
It's called the mobile studio, the DJ Sessions mobile studio. You can see it on our website, thedjsessions.com. Check out the mobile studios. We drive it around town. It's pretty awesome, but it ties me into something that you two are doing. And part of one of the things that the Superstars roadmap, I want to talk about that, but part of that is buying a Hollywood tour bus. And do I see that there's a contest to possibly give that bus away?
Well, so just sort of on the Superstars thing. So with the Hollywood tour bus, first of all, about when we started first having success on TikTok, this was sort of like the end of 2020, start of 2021. And, we were still working our day jobs. Like we're still in the same apartment today, but I went from really struggling to at least having a couple dollars in change. And, for us, when we started putting our bills on auto pay, I'm like, all right, we've made it. And then, so, we go out we're just one day we're like, let's get a Hollywood tour bus because one of our friends has got one. And we hit him up. He's like, yeah, it costs $20,000. I'm like, no way. And then, so, me and Ivy were like, what else are we doing? We may as well. Ivy starts calling up some places and we go meet one of the guys. And he's just he shows us all the buses and there was some for $4,000, $5,000. And then there was a shitty, honestly, it was my favorite in terms of look. It needed some work, but it was only $3,000.
Yeah.
Or 3,200. And then so we literally walk over to the Wells Fargo, get out the cash, probably all the cash we had at the time, and bought the bus and then got the seats welded the same, actually not the same day, a little bit later. But, so they had the seats moving in the back and all that. It was just we just the idea of having a Hollywood tour bus was so cool. That's some DA type stuff, where you're driving ambulances and fire trucks and tour buses. And so that had sort of became our logo. And sort of we started designing some merch around that. And honestly, it was just a very practical car.
It really was, yeah. We take all our friends in it. If we all want to go out or something, it was very...
Yeah,
we were the Ubers.
Honestly. And, so it was just great just for that because, you got 10 friends who want to all go to the flea market rather than trying to, coordinate all these cars. We can all fit it in one. Beautiful weather in LA. Obviously, if you're going to have, I guess, convertible anywhere, LA is probably the place for Miami. And so it was just great. So that had just become a staple of us. And then so we were doing the Superstars project. And so, that we've actually put on pause because so when we got into the Superstars project, it was pretty much we'd been in NFT sort of day trading since early last year, and we'd been in crypto way before that. So we're familiar with space and the technology behind it and sort of the utility. And so we've been hesitant to do our own project because we've just seen so many, influencers and even celebrities sort of do projects and, they promoted it in a mint and then they just dip out and then, everyone else is left holding the bag and, they've made their money, but, sort of at what cost. And so that's why we were so hesitant for getting in the space for a while. One of our friends had reached out. He had worked with Justin Bieber and Gian Piero on the In-Betweeners project, and that went successfully and it all looked good. And then he sort of left to create his own studio where he would create these NFTs. And so he sort of, spoke to us and we're like, yeah, well, let's do it. It's sounds all good. And so we've been working on it since about December of last year. And, just as you've seen, the roadmap's very detailed, the art. We work with a fantastic artist and we had all these sort of, because we have all these other projects like this cookbook that we're getting made and a TV show. And so it just felt natural to sort of tie everything in. But honestly, just sort of more and more that goes along, even though we were sort of the faces, we were helping run the day to day. And it was just starting to detract from what made us in the first place, right? We weren't in the studio. We were barely making videos. We were, scheduling meetings was a headache because we were sort of going and had all these and it was a lot, way more than we could have ever imagined. And so we took a good hard look. We've probably put in $20,000 into this. No one else put in. We've just put all the money in, into marketing. I mean, we've got hundreds of shirts and ads sitting on our couch. which are honestly
they're pretty sweet though.
Yeah, they're honestly.
To be fair, they're pretty awesome.
And so it was just like, all right, we put in this money so we could go and
Oops, that was from your website.
And then so we're like, we could go, continue to do this, but we're like, if we're going to do this, we're only going to do it if we're 110% in. And if we're 110% in, that means that we can't be 110% into all the other stuff. If we're going to seriously help run the day to day and, give the community what we promise, you saw that it's a very extensive roadmap. It just wasn't feasible. So we, Ivy and me had a hard conversation. We're like, we just got to, let the team know that, it's just, and the community know that, like, unless we are going to be 110% dedicated every day, wake up, hopping in the Discord, doing this, doing that, then we shouldn't move forward. Because the second someone puts $1 in, that's not us, I'm going to feel personally responsible. And, even if I hate every second, I'm going to have to deliver. And it hadn't gotten to that point yet. So we both agreed, sometimes you just got to know when, it's just not it. And, and that's sort of
timing wasn't there. And we just said, okay, let's not go against the grain right now.
And then let's get back to because we, sort of got distracted from the music. And so, we're like, all right, we want to take this music thing very seriously, and you can't sort of do music casually. At least, at the level we want to pursue, and we have the opportunity, the freedom. So let's, use that for music rather than, this, NFTs. And also it just started to be like, what is the point of this NFT, right? And I think that's for most NFTs where it's like, yeah, there is cool utility, but why do we need to put this on Web3?
Yeah.
And more it just became everything we want to do right now, we could still do within Web2. We're just trying to cram it into, utilize this technology, and it just didn't feel organic. And it was just like, what is the real point? And that's when we just like, no, let's just cut this now.
After 12, 13 years of doing this series here, the DJ sessions, having a track record of 30 years of being in media production, going all the way back into public access in 92, moving into broadcast television in the double O's, or the aughts, I think is what it's called. That was the first time I ever heard of that, the aughts. And then getting into podcasting and then live streaming and making sure that I don't burn out anymore. And I've done that over the course before, when I took on the DJ Sessions brand, even though it was still up and down and still watching technology grow with it, you got to kind of pick and choose what you're going to go after, what you're going to focus on. Otherwise, you could just spread yourself completely thin, be running around. And then at the end of the day, you got crap all. And your brand is just like, oh, I'm not doing that. I've burnt out before several times, not wanting to pick up a camera, not wanting to do anything. Now I got a pattern going, but the biggest word out there, the biggest 3 letters out there right now is NFT. And I ask every artist now in every interview, I mean, you guys could, you wrote the book, you got the frequently asked questions on your website. First question, what is an NFT? You're on top of this. And, we're really excited. We're looking to do some things in that realm as well, that we're working on in the back end, namely taking our assets that we have over 2,300 episodes, and creating those episodes into NFTs. So an actual video file of the episode, and working on how that's going to work and how does that translate with our brand and how we're going to launch that and go. And it's very interesting. We actually have an interview scheduled with the first NFT record label that was launched coming up here in the future, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, where does that sounds like it kind of pulled you away from the music, and you want to bring it back into that. And one of the things you did recently surrounding the music was an NFT LA live event.
Yes, and that was a lot of fun.
That was a great time.
So,
we played a fun show.
That was because we partnered with the Heart Project on that, the Hearts Project. And that's honestly one of the few projects that I can vouch and say, this is legitimate. This is because everyone talks about community with NFTs, right? And they're like, well, you want to own a Bored Ape because, Steph Curry has one and Eminem has one and, Madonna has one, yada, yada, yada. And it's like Justin Bieber, but it's like, are they buying or is there management? And then it's like, let's be real. Justin Bieber's not going to be in the Bored Ape Yacht Club Discord chatting away. Yeah. But the people the Hearts Project have associated with them is seriously like New Hollywood, like the sort of like it group of LA and just sort of the cultural influences.
And they're also involved like in the IRL events too. It's like, X was telling me at the party, like, so many big people were there. Like those holders are actually like invested in the project. It's not just like, oh, this is some Bored Ape, I'm gonna flip this one day for million. It's like, no, that's like actually like a community to be a part of.
And that was another thing. It's like this project where I know they have a great community, they all these things, you know, they're sitting at like a point, you know, now it's like 0.1, like a 0.1, 0.2 ETH floor. Meanwhile, you got all these other, you know, rug projects that are at a multi-ETH floor. And you're just like, what really, where is the real value here? Like, it's all about hype and all that. So it just sort of became a little bit, you know, just sort of disenchanted with like where the space is at this second. But the NFT LA party was really fun because it was a way for, you know, holders could come. It was, you know, during NFT LA, we work with, you know, our buddy owns this company called Grilled Cheese Society. It's a ghost kitchen they sponsor. So we had grilled cheeses. Our other buddies own this hard seltzer company called Good Sunday. So, you know, alcohol, it was just a really great party. Had a lot of fun. And, you know, that was the best thing that came out of the whole
honestly, project. It was a kick-ass party.
Throwing that party because we had a lot of cool people and it was just a great, just seeing people move and groove and just bringing disco to LA is always great.
Awesome. And you mentioned earlier, Ivy, about in real life or IRL. Have you guys looked at doing anything in the VR or AR realm? Is that something that's on your radar at all?
Well, I mean, we did do, I mean, obviously during COVID, like there were no live shows. We were thinking about doing a couple, I guess, live streams for a couple organizations, but they all fell through. But I mean, like we just did one for a Discord for a project while we were coming up with Superstars. And that was a lot of fun. So like I'm always down to do, you know, VR or, you know, like virtual concerts. That's so fun.
I would love to give you both a tour. We just launched 2 virtual nightclubs in alt space. I've had some of the people that are really in that realm have come and visit our club and they're like, I've been in this realm for 2-3 years. I've never seen anything like this. And we call the nightclub Beta Nightclub because it's literally in our beta version. We haven't even launched version 1 of it yet. And there's some really cool stuff. I don't know if you guys own Oculus or
nightclub.
What's up?
Call me up when you got the Chad nightclub, the Sigma nightclub.
The Chad nightclub?
I'm making a joke of it.
Yeah, I know. We're really excited to be moving into that realm as well. And that territory, we kind of see that combining NFTs with VR, and people can come into our clubs and kind of walk through and be in a NFT gallery of sorts with our images and other artists and other works that people can then inside VR, click a button, open a browser, takes you to the NFT buying portal. They can buy NFTs right there if they want to do it. And we could curate that for each artist that's playing. You know, so if we had a party shirt party in our VR nightclub and you guys could be there in VR, like kicking it or doing whatever we do live streams, but we could line the walls with all party shirt NFTs while people are coming down. So virtual gallery. It's really awesome. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit, but busy as you are, I was really intrigued to see you also have a podcast series called IDK Tho, or is it actually called I Don't Know Though?
It's whatever you want. It's like, I don't know.
No, tell us a little bit about the IDK Tho podcast.
Well, I mean,
sort of as it's described, because we don't, you know, it's sort of like we've seen this whole crop of, you know, because sort of with influencers, one of the phenomenons, I guess, is this thing called the halo effect, where someone's an expert in one area and then automatically everyone assumes that they're just an expert in every area, you know? So you'll have someone who might have came up talking about health and wellness, now talking about relationship advice, or someone who came up about fashion, now talking about, you know, career advice, or someone who, you know, just all these different things. Like, you know, I want to be Grant Cardone's now talking about, I don't even know, like NFTs, right? So, you know, these people who have sort of become influencers who sort of know everything, and we're here saying like, we don't know shit. And, you know, but we love just discussing it between a couple of mates and just sort of having a raw conversation between a couple of 20-somethings who are still figuring out life in the big city and just sort of giving their 2 cents on different situations that are sort of solicited online.
And you just started this recently, because I see there's 6 episodes up there right now, and the titles I think are just classic. I mean, start out episode 1, body count board and how to friend zone someone. Episode 2, the slap and secret tattoo. 3, male birth control pill and girlfriend clubbing with Tinder match. I assume that's what GF stood for.
Yeah.
4, bilingual babies and gym crush etiquette. 5, masturbating at work and the alcoholic mother-in-law. 6, the retail Karen plus twin bed red flag.
Yes.
How has the response been to your podcast series?
Great, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually like, for how fast podcasts grow, which is extremely slow, it's been surprising us.
And then just like the relationship that it creates with the audience, because you know, a TikTok or even a 2-hour like DJ live set, right? What I go see, you know, you mentioned that you believe your friend or sister loves Dylan Francis, right? You go to a Dylan Francis show, you love him probably because of his online persona, because he plays great music, he's a great producer, but what can I gather from him from a 2-hour set? I mean, honestly, out of any DJ, he probably gives more of his personality in his sets, because a lot of DJs out there, right? Like, it could be anyone behind the decks, and it's hard to really tell their style. And same thing with the fact or caps and stuff, because it's so formatted and because it's the focus is about testing trends for the most part. It's hard for us to show our personality without taking away from the main point of the video. So the podcast just lets us sort of free form talk for like 10 minutes. And that's the great thing about it too. The podcasts are very digestible, like 10 minutes. Yeah. Who doesn't have 10 minutes? You space out an hour and you've listened to every, I don't know, though, so far. And so I think, that's another thing for us. We're just very always on the go and short attention spans. So that's why we're like, okay, let's do a short podcast, just because what's something we would listen to if we, didn't listen to a podcast before. It's easy. So.
And does your family enjoy listening to your podcast and your music?
Mine call me every day. When's the next podcast? When's the next podcast? When's the next podcast? So they really love it. They love the music too. We just haven't released for a while, but all our songs, they'll always put it on the Google Home and send me photos, and all the listeners from Australia, I can just sort of assume it's them.
Switching the gear a little bit more towards your music careers, how would you define success as a DJ? Would it be a Beatport top 10 hit, a sold out tour, a huge social following, which you two are definitely amassing? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I'd say it's really it's honestly beyond all that. It's like, you just need a community. Like, I've seen DJs that I've never heard of. They don't even put out music. They're just strictly DJs, and when they're at a show, they have a huge following. So it really doesn't matter. You really just got to be in the scene, you got to meet people, you got to play for the right people who are going to buy into your brand and come to your next shows, and then eventually down the road, if you do decide to release music, then they're supporting that, but I feel because there's so many different types of DJs and music producers, and then the hybrid between both. So it's success looks different for everyone,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what about you, X?
I mean, it's sort of I agree that it's all about the community. And because like you said, right, there's some people who are strictly DJs and not producers, which is, in the 90s was very common, right? They were sort of separate things. And now people have blurred the thing where it's if you're a DJ, you have to be a producer. Yeah. It's sort of, you could be a producer and not a DJ, but you can't really be a DJ and not a producer right now, because most people are building their following from having hit songs, you know, or being on the right labels and sort of being automatically on these sort of lineups. I think, it is a mix of all those things. You need the social following these days. You need sort of the IRL support. You need sold out shows. You need Beatport hits. But I think if I could only pick one, I would say having sold out shows, because you can have a massive following, no one shows up. You can have a Beatport hit, no one's listening to your next single. So, but having a sold out show, I mean, I think having a sold out show and having not released for 2 years, because you can have, a top 10 hit and then people are going to come to see that. But in 2 years, when they haven't thought about that song for 12 months, it's you versus someone else at a festival. Who are they picking? And so I think it's that's why it's artists like J. Cole, right? Like they probably haven't really had a hit album since, Forest Hills. I'm sure he's still selling out stadiums.
Definitely.
While there's probably people on the Billboard top 10 right now who couldn't even get 200 people to a show in a major city. So it's really about if you're thinking long term, you need that, do you want to be a Rage Against the Machine selling out stadiums 20 years after you last release songs, or do you want to have a bunch of TikTok hits? It's you need the TikTok hits to get there, but it's also focusing on where do I want to be in 10, 20 years with the music.
You mentioned TikTok, and I know we talked a little bit earlier about your success on TikTok. I recently just got into TikTok. It was about 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks ago. I kind of got sucked down the rabbit hole. I was laying in bed and like, I'm an old school. I'm old school shifted into new school. It was Facebook, Twitter, then Insta and the Snapchat, and then TikTok came along. And sitting there in bed, I'm like, I'm going to check out this TikTok thing. I'm going to look at it for like 5 minutes. Yeah, I think it was like 11 o'clock. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. I started doing this. The next thing I look at the clock and it's like 3:30 in the morning. I was like, this is awesome.
It's the best. It's honestly too good because the algorithm just knows you so well that like it's really a dull moment on TikTok.
Exactly. But back to the music, and you kind of answered this a little bit, but what do you feel distinguishes a DJ from a producer?
I mean, definitely just like produce, like putting music out,
Yeah, I think that's just the biggest thing is that like, it's just producing. And then it's sort of like, I mean, there can be like incredible producers who are not good DJs. Like Avicii's famously like, hated DJing, like, and often, apparently like sometimes it wasn't even connected, but he was one of the world's best producers. And he was someone who blew up as a producer, and then to monetize it, right, you need to sort of play live shows, which, as an electronic artist normally means DJing. I mean, now we're, seeing more and more live shows with, live instruments, but then it's sort of like, it's tough, because you can't just be a big producer. And then, most of the money these days, and back then even, was still live shows. So, it's sort of tough. Some people just love like a Fisher, right? Like who knows, about anything else, but I know he's a fantastic DJ, right? He gives a crowd what they want, because I think for a while it was sort of like emo boys in hoodies, playing dubstep. And now we're seeing like a bunch of these sort of, tech house, sort of more lively acts. Like just saw John Summit and Dom Dollar. And it was like, you're watching a show as much as you're listening to the music.
Yeah.
You're seeing them up there interacting with each other, fucking with the crowd, just doing these small things, and you can't step too far and be obnoxious about it either. Right. Like there's that one guy on Instagram who all these pages are just promoting all these fucking house music pages, and he's just doing the most. And it's like, you're doing too much, So I think people like Peggy Goo do it well, where they sort of interact with the crowd without making it just about sort of that. I don't know. We're getting away from the question, but I mean, I think the biggest thing is, some just produce music and some just play it.
And when you're out doing a show, do you take time to take pictures with your fans? Like, do you do an after show recap, get out in the audience and meet with your fans to get that meet and greet and hang out with them? And I know some DJs are like, I was just on stage, I just performed, I want to go back to my green room, I got to chill, I got a next gig to get to, but some really do take that time to go out and shake hands, sign the autographs, meet with their fans, and maybe give merch away or whatever it is. That's awesome. So is the first record that the both of you ever bought singly, X and Ivy, worth mentioning, or is it completely embarrassing?
The first record we've ever bought?
First record you bought, I guess, did you start DJing separately, or was Party Shirt an automatic made duo and you both started it together? Or were you kind of dabbling in things beforehand and said, boom, let's go?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely because we met in 2016, which was going into your junior year or going into your sophomore year? I think junior year, right?
Yeah.
You had already lived for a year.
No, no, it must have been going into my sophomore year.
Yeah.
If it was that summer, it would have been going into my sophomore year.
Yeah, so we were like 19 then,
Yeah.
And so I had been DJing probably since I was like, I want to say 15 or 16. So I'd been doing it for a while before then. And then X had been we had been doing it separately before we met each other.
What was the first album, Ivy, that you ever purchased? Is it embarrassing or is it worth mentioning?
Ever, like in my life?
Like first album or did you start on vinyl or did you start digital?
I started on CDs actually.
CDs?
Yeah, it was Beatles' White Album.
Beatles' White Album. Okay. That was the first CD you bought that you would put into shows, or was that the first?
Oh no, that was just the first CD.
First CD ever bought. How about the first track? Do you remember the first track you ever purchased that you would maybe just play the shit out of over and over again at every second? You just loved it so much, or is it worth mentioning? Was like a Britney or a Tiffany or some crazy obscure?
No, it was like 2015 era. That was like, or like 2014. Ghastly was my fucking idol, dude. So Get On This by Ghastly was like one song I would just rip all the time.
Nice. X, what about you?
Honestly, couldn't tell you my first track that I sort of bought for shows. I mean, I'd honestly have to go back and check, but fuck, I don't know. I honestly just don't know what it would be. I'm thinking of when I was a kid, like what was some CDs that I bought and shit. It would have been probably like some of the Ministry of Sound stuff. I used to love The Offspring. I still do, obviously, old Eminem. But I'm trying to I just can't because it's just been so long. I'd have to go through my iTunes and see. I'd hope it's something cool, but it probably wasn't.
That's okay. That's all good. There's so many. Back in the vinyl days, I've been in this industry for 30 years. And I can see people going back and say, I remember the first record I bought from the record store. Like Ivy, remember the White Album. Records were one thing because there was a limited supply of records. Nowadays in the digital world, anyone can grab a million copies of that track and just blow up and go, even the theory of the white label, the release, and people will play a track and then they can go up and Shazam it at the show. Exactly. I was just doing an interview with somebody recently, and there was a video they had on Instagram where one of their friends was in the crowd watching them play, filming them on the phone, and they got this guy up at the DJ booth trying to Instagram one of their tracks that was not released yet, and he posted on Instagram with his friend's video saying, "You ain't gonna find this on Shazam, buddy, because it's not there." So just technology has advanced so much. So you having 30,000, 50,000, 60,000 songs at your disposal and just being able to say, I'm going to flip open Beatport or whatever resource you go to go, what's hot today? What's going on? Or maybe going to 1001 track lists and seeing what other people are playing and going, oh, okay, I'm going to just go pull that one down in my mix. It makes it I can see it's much harder to maybe answer that question, remembering in a digital age, how much you can just acquire so fast.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I'm sure when you go to a record store, you buy your first record, sort of it's a bigger deal because it's more of an event. It's like buying your first video game, right? Where you had to ask mum to take you to Walmart and all that.
And it's the only video game you can play.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like you said, right? Like even if I just want to listen to since 2007, because we sort of grew up in the digital age. So when I'm 11, 2007, YouTube comes out and I pretty much had all the music I wanted to listen to pretty quickly, Yeah. And so I've just always sort of been accustomed to that's sort of the age I started to get more into music. It's just been available digitally. You can torrent it somewhere or go on YouTube. And then when Spotify came out, I was like, this is the craziest thing ever. How is this even possible? I just couldn't, because it came to Australia a couple of years after the US. And I just remember since the day it came out in Australia, I've had Spotify because I was just blown the fuck away that you can listen to any song whenever without having to download it. That's just the coolest thing of all time. So it's sort of been it's great in that sense that you don't have to sort of dig through crates, but I guess it probably takes away some of the experience and the meanings of songs because I'm sure if you're looking for this one particular record that, like you said, is a limited release, maybe on an indie dance label, and you have to travel all around SoCal to find it. Once you get it, I'm sure it's a lot more meaningful than I just Google it and I can have it on my iPhone in 2 seconds.
Absolutely. What about the first NFT you ever purchased?
Okay, the first NFT I ever purchased was last year. I don't know It might have been like the Lonely Alien Club, might have been one. Or
Yeah, I had my first one was something like that. That was just
Some
absolute
bullshit.
garbage. Yeah, complete rug pull. Like,
I know. I just sold a lot of
my.
mine, and I'm just like, I'm getting like a tenth of what I paid. I'm like, it's almost like why bother selling it? But I'm like, it's better to have $70 and not have $70.
Yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
Was this did you spend a lot of time researching NFTs before you made your first purchase, or was this like, I'm on the hype train, I see this, I'm gonna go get this one, and then later go, whoa, or
sort of a mix. I mean, it was like we had sort of been researching the space for a while, but the particular projects, I had a friend who had done pretty well in NFTs and sort of made it his full-time thing. So after I had done my research and made the decision I was interested in NFTs, then I went to him and I said, what should I buy? And he's like, hey, obviously not financial advice, but here's what I'm getting, yada, yada, yada. And then I just sort of bought those. And like, then honestly, after a few days, I was up, an okay amount. And then it just it crashed. And then with every crash, there's some blue chip projects that are going to come back and be bigger than ever. And then there's a lot of just crap projects that are never going to bounce back. And you just got to sort of know. And you never know, but you just sort of have a gut feeling that, hey, I've probably just got to, even though I've lost money on this, I just got to sell it because it's just never coming back.
I guess that's kind of how the market is going, how it's playing out. And you guys are definitely on top of that. We're taking the slow and steady race over here, kind of the way of the tortoise. We see it being a future. We see it being the future, especially being able to give artists kind of a monetary control back on what they do. I've even seen late as Twitter. I don't know if you noticed this, but Twitter has it. If you upload an NFT photo to your Twitter account, it'll give you a special logo.
At the hexagon.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of really cool that, will Facebook, will Instagram, will TikTok follow suit in that. And then also pictures, like when you upload a picture, they can say, this is actually an NFT copy, and you'll get that kind of seal of official approval that you're uploading original artwork that you have the rights to use or rights to upload, and how that will translate into music as well. And going back to the music side of things in your music career, what's the best moment for the both of you of your music career up until now?
Been so many, like, hard to say at best. There's been so many memorable moments. I mean,
the Chicago trip
was great. And even just outside of DJing, like when we had our first sort of, mini hit song that blew up on TikTok and sort of finally getting some musical success was great. And then we had some really like promising meetings with, honestly, 3 major management companies on it, maybe even 4 that we ended up deciding not to pursue. But it's just sort of those meetings where like you think everything's about to happen. And I mean, there's just so many, like there's been a lot of memorable moments. It's hard to say, like, I feel like maybe there is going to be a centerfold moment, like a headlining Coachella where it's just so clear that, hey, this is just the winner. But we haven't had one. Like, we've had a lot of great memorable moments, but none that I'm like, this is the best. And
they're all the baby steps to the one.
We're still very, very early, so we're still 10 steps ahead in our mind of where we are now. So I think when they get closer to reality, I think it'll be more standoutish.
One of mine is I'll share with you is I've told people I've been to the Nakatomi Towers before. Where they filmed Die Hard. It was the building they used in the movie Die Hard was the Fox building in Century City out there. I believe it's in Century City. Should be in Century City. Anyways, somewhere out there in LA. I should know this. I should know more about this. But people are like, what? You've been to that? And I'm like, and it was 2005. I got called by the vice president of Fox to go down to his offices, and I had to sit with him. He was the guy that was responsible for selling That 70s Show and Malcolm in the Middle to the entire West Coast.
Damn.
Great.
So he got me into his office, and at this time we had 8 separate pilots that were shopping and had been approved to air on 12 stations on the whole West Coast. He sat me down in his office and he said, "Oh, welcome, Darren. Welcome. Sit you down." And first words out of his mouth, he goes, "How did you get 8 separate television shows approved on 12 stations on the West Coast? That's what I do for a living."
Yeah.
So how did you do it? And I just looked at him. I said, "I picked up the phone.
Yep.
And right there, it was a defining moment of my level of what I would do to make sure I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to pound that pavement, I'm going to do it. And kind of was a huge moment for me of showing the progress of where I am. I used to actually go on live streaming and do a thing called dialing for dollars. And I just get on the phone in the morning, start calling up sponsors on the phone while I'm live streaming to Facebook and everything, and just showing my dedication. Like, here's what you got to do. But it was a defining moment, of the career. But maybe not the best moment, but what about the most inspiring moment of your career?
I think that's just a great lesson for anyone sort of listening, is that like so much, even in the entertainment, is being an entrepreneur. You know, like I think pretty much all successful artists are entrepreneurs, because you sort of have to be, unless you just somehow have the world's best manager and you're just a puppet and they're doing literally everything else, right? Which is like impossible and something I wouldn't want, to give someone else complete 100% control. And so I think, a lot of our most successful things have come from just persistence. Yeah. It's not like we've had like a breakthrough genius moment like this is the best and put it out in the world and it just takes off. And that's why when I hear all these stories of, I uploaded this song to SoundCloud, sent it to 2 friends, forgot about it, and it became a #1 hit, I'm like, that's bullshit. Yeah. Because we've made great songs, put money into it and seen how hard it is to promote. So I don't believe this whole like, you have better luck buying a lottery ticket because it's a lot of marketing, even with a great product.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I've realized was hard for me, is taking the baby, what I call the baby of the DJ sessions, and putting that baby in the hands of others, talking to others that are strangers that I don't know, and seeing an email come through. And I'm like, oh no, you didn't say that. Or, okay, let's come back and revamp our process. But now I have somebody in New York. I have somebody in the UK. I have somebody in Thailand. I have somebody in Seattle. I mean, a team that is now working to take us to that global level of that global outreach. And now going and hitting the circuits of going, I wish I could have gone to IMS. We were almost like this close to going to Winter Music Conference this year, but I was like, but starting to get out into the networking conferences and pounding the pavement and being on the street with everyone else that's out there, especially after the last few years of what just happened. So we're really doing a huge push to go to ADE this year. We'll come right back around and go to Winter Music Conference, and then go into IMS and Sonar and ADE and start being on the ground, because we can get back to doing that on the ground reporting. I would love being in person with you two, holding the microphone in our mobile studio in LA right now. Pull the mobile truck up, put it next to the beach, and be just doing some sets with some DJs. You guys come in, maybe play a set in the back of the truck and stream it live. It'd be awesome. Speaking of, we just bought a new mobile studio that we're putting down into Phoenix, Arizona. So that's a hop, skip, and a jump away from LA. So you might see us back and forth over there. Back to the music just a little bit, though. Do you like to go out and listen to sets of other DJs? And I don't mean necessarily the big name DJs and the big shows. Do you visit your local, I mean, in LA, it's pretty big town, but your local clubs, your local venues, in a sense, and kind of see what's happening out on the street? Or is it, do you not have time to go out there and see and listen to sets of other DJs?
Luckily, fortunately for us, Sound Nightclub, which is like the biggest house venue in LA, is literally like 4 blocks down. So, and that's like, we're all like, we're like huge tech house, like traditional tech house, like disco, like real house. And that's like infiltrated by a lot of like everywhere else other than the United States, and so they bring in like all like the big Euro DJs, and then they really curate a vibe that is true to what they stand by, and they stick to that, and so it's a great place to go see your
Oops. Sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. I guess that's one of your TikTok videos, somebody's TikTok video. Whoops. Doing research. That's what I love about TikTok, and why I love doing a live show, that any shit can happen right in the middle of it. So I was gonna go look up Sound Nightclub while you're talking about it, and then TikTok kind of kicked on.
Right, and then like Ivy said, it's sort of the only venue or the biggest venue that sort of plays house, but it's still not that big. Relative to like what you might think. So it's great that it's got like this intimate vibe, and you can see like a really big act who in Europe would probably sell out a 3,000, 4,000 person warehouse, and you're with maybe 200-300 people. So it's cool. It's like, it sucks that house and tech house and techno, and isn't that big in LA relative to maybe Europe or some other places. But it's also nice that you can get to see them in like an intimate setting.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that like the US like is ruled by like hip hop, and it's like everywhere else in the world is fucking
and dubstep. It's like UK was done with dubstep 20 years ago, practically.
Like everywhere else, they're just it's house or
like Europe's back on D&B right now.
Yeah,
like I've gone full circle.
It's crazy.
So I feel like the US is a bit behind. And I think dance music in the US has, maybe controversials died a little compared to what it was in the early 2010s, mid 2015. Like think about, Calvin Harris, Zed, Marshmallow, Flume, all at their peak when they had radio hits. I mean, those guys are still massive. They're still filling up stadiums.
Yeah.
But like, tell me the last song any of them released.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was popular. I just can't think of any. And, so I just feel like it's now become more of a niche thing again. And I think it's like, it contracts, expand. So I think there's probably going to be a big blow up of dance music. And hopefully this time it is more, house, tech house, D&B, garage, like sort of more of that traditionally rave music.
And speaking of tracks, speaking of genres, what's the number one track you're playing out right now on if you got your memory stick and you go, I just saw that and it's like in my past 10 set list you played? Or do you have I was recently speaking with somebody who said, you know what, here's a rule that I learned. I can't remember who they heard it from, but they just said this in an interview the other day, said, never play the same track twice. And I don't know.
Like the thing is, there was something like we never curate like a set list before or anything.
Yeah,
we sort of like
freestyle.
But there are them songs that like you just know hit and just feel right, and it's not like hey, we'll put them in every set, but like definitely played them their fair share. I mean, I think what sort of everyone's really seen right now is flips and just remixes, especially of sort of hip hop and rap. And reggaeton right now do really well because everyone knows the lyrics. They've heard them on the radio and it gives them something new, something fresh. So it's like something that's familiar to them and that they can sing along to, even though they've never heard the remix before, but it gets them dancing.
There's that one, the Crypto Woman one by Sorley.
Oh, yeah.
That one's good.
That
one's like exactly like that. Like you might not know the acapella off like the name of it, but you've definitely heard it. And it's such a good song.
No, there's so much sampling. I feel like again, it's going back to sort of that 90s where there was sampling was so rampant, and then it went into more of just finding random, artists to sort of be on your track, and now it's going back to the sampling. Because I was sort of like, when you play a song with a sample, you just sort of like it. If the songs work before, it's much easier to know that it's going to work as a dance track.
Is there a DJ trick that the two of you could share with our DJ Sessions fans that you do, or that that's kind of a patented party shirt trick move? Anything you got in the arsenal that you could share with us?
Some sort of technical difficulties. I think
that's a huge show. Like,
every show we have. There's like something wrong with the CDJs or this and that. At this point, we've got them decent at fixing them on the fly, so it's not really an issue. But
when in doubt, reverb it out. Like if something's getting fucked up, cut the lows, reverb it out, spin the deck, bring in that next song. Like,
oh, that's awesome. Okay, guys, a few last questions here. Success doesn't last forever, especially for an artist. What do you do to save up for the future? What do you invest your earnings in?
Fuck, I mean, don't ask us wrong.
Yeah, this past year, the whole crypto world kind of fucking tickled us a little more than we should have.
Now I'm investing in the Vanguard, the top 500 stocks in the US.
It's traditional shit.
International, exactly. And then another thing is a good thing about the house, sort of tech house space, is that most of the largest DJs are sort of, 35, 40, 50, like Green Velvet's 50 something, Carl Cox is 50 something, Lee Foss is 50 something. So it's sort of like it's got a longer tail, because I feel like a lot of the other sort of genres in dance music are sort of like I said, you know, you got young kids, you know, sort of people.
It's like House has the history to bring in all ages, you know, and whereas these other ones kind of are a little targeted towards a certain demographic.
And then the good thing about especially DJing too is like once you build a following, it's sort of harder to lose it, right? You like, again, Flume, a great artist. I couldn't tell you the last big song he had, but when he was having big songs, he was having hits. And he just, you know, second from closing out Coachella, and that was packed. So just because you haven't had a hit song for a couple of years, you don't really lose that audience, which is great. So that's also a nice thing.
Side note, just let you know, Carl Cox is 61.
Probably going to be going to 70.
Well, one of my questions I always ask, especially for longtime producers, DJs, is, you know, Carl Cox was born in 1962 and he's still rocking stages to this day. Where do you see yourself at when you're 60 years old?
Dude, I want to be rocking sets.
Yeah, if I can make Carl Cox and look as good as him and have that energy, then I'm going to be DJing.
I want to be like having our own shows, like throwing the craziest like Sursoul type shows, like just in the most like out of pocket locations.
It'd be sick to have grandkids.
Literally.
Let me correct that. He was born July 29th, 1962. So he turned 60 this year.
There we go.
Him and my dad, they're super close. My dad turned 60 this year on the 18th of July.
I should enjoy.
Yeah, literally.
Awesome. Well, guys, we're going to let you get going back to having some fun, doing those videos, the TikTok videos. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you get going?
No, it's got some releases coming out soon. We're excited about that. You know,
we got a new mix series coming out as well, so keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and then we're working on our own little radio show, so that could be something. So we're just really putting the music at the front of everything right now and prioritizing that.
Well, we definitely look forward to staying in contact with you. We will be staying in contact with you. We're going to be doing follow-ups with every person that comes on the show. Every 6 months, maybe every quarter, just stay on contact with what Party Shirt is doing and what's going on. And I'll be spending a lot more time down in the Southwest and coming over to LA a lot more. I'd love to hook up and hang out with you guys sometime.
Awesome. Yep.
Awesome. And where can people find out more information about you guys and what you got going on?
Oh, I mean, our TikTok and Instagram pretty much have it all. Yeah.
All our handles are at Party Shirt, partyshirt.com.
Yeah.
Just Party Shirt.
If you have some time to kill, head over to Spotify, listen to the music and the new podcast.
And SoundCloud too. We got some cool mixes on there as well if you're interested in those.
Definitely. X and Ivy just followed you both on Instagram as well, personally, as the DJ Sessions. And looking forward to chatting with you more in the future. You guys have a lot to offer, a lot coming up. Is there any tours planned? Do you have a tour planned at any chance? Or are you working on it?
No, we're probably we normally book our shows a couple of weeks before we play them. So sometimes we'll be like, we have no shows, and then next thing I know, we're playing 3 in a week. So it's sort of ad hoc right now.
Yeah.
I think once we start releasing more and then making it more structured and more of like a part of our, you know, day-to-day business, then we'll sort of plan our tours a bit more. But with just everything going on the past year, it's sort of been hard to schedule our tours because, you know, then we'll have these other obligations that just pop up. And, you know, so now it's like we'll start scheduling more in advance now that, you know, we're refocused everything.
Awesome. Well, if you come up to Seattle, we'd love to do an in-person interview with you and actually show you that mobile studio as well, because now we got 2 of them on the West Coast coming out. Side note, when I actually launched the mobile studio years ago, I had a little stint on Kevin Smith's Smodcast. And they were talking about it as doing it. We mentioned it as the fastest moving DJ show in the world because we were going to take it and go from Seattle and go down the West Coast, down I-5 and hit different cities and record the shows in the back of the truck while we're going like speeds of up to 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's so dope.
We actually just did a road trip to Vegas, to Phoenix, and then back up to Vegas for 5 days and went up and down the strip with it. But we'll talk about that another time. Guys, thank you so much, X and Ivy, for coming on the show. Party Shirt. Check them out. These guys, they're blowing up. And don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok. Find us on Twitter. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, thedjsessions.com. This is Darren coming to you from Seattle, Washington for the virtual sessions with Party Shirt all the way in from LA. And you know what happens on the DJ Sessions? The music never stops.